Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 195 at scavengerlife.com. Okay, before we start the podcast, I am sitting here editing the podcast, and I'm noticing a lot of sound distortion because one of us placed our phone very close to the voice recorder. So you're going to hear some weird blips and buzzes throughout the podcast, and I apologize. So, sorry about that.
And we want to welcome all the little trash elves.
The little trash elves.
That are joining us today.
You're all trash elves, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and we hope you're, of course, either taking pictures of stuff that you got at yard sales.
Shipping.
Or listing.
Or hearing the cha-ching sounds.
All of those things. I think that we hope that we will accompany you towards doing what you want to do.
For the next several hours.
That's right. I swear, we never start these things planning for them to be 2 hours, so...
Well, lately we've just had a lot to talk about.
They might not be.
This might not
be. Could be 20 minutes.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. That's true.
There are definitely no rules.
You never know.
No rules in Scavenging.
Right.
All right, okay, so we don't like to waste people's time, so let's just get into it.
Don't waste time.
So there were two things I read this week. One is Linda had linked to on the blog about this couple who sell on Etsy. They sell like honeybee wax candles.
Yes. What's funny is when I looked at that article, I knew exactly who it was. I was
really?
like, oh yeah. Because a lot of people are copying them now, but what they do is they make these gorgeous beeswax candles, but they make these plaster molds of vintage bottles.
Oh, and
so,
mason jars.
Yeah,
and
mason jars. And so it's like a reverse of the reverse mold. So it's this beautiful, beeswax candle of like an old mason jar. They look incredible.
And it was a great article because it was, I feel like these things are starting to pop up, and so it's maybe people our age and younger are starting to like grasp this, where, their store got popular.
Right.
They started to sell a lot. They started to get a lot of orders.
Like wholesale orders from companies.
And they started to, go down this path where they were really ramping up and working overtime and getting a warehouse.
Yeah.
It's like the whole empire thing, which is totally cool. But then they realized, that wasn't fun to them.
Right.
And so they switched, and they bought, a little homestead, or they bought a home, and now they would just work out of their house, and instead of having a huge, gigantic company, they have a nice-sized, sustainable company with, a good, comfortable life.
Right.
And I love that. It's kind of like our mom-and-pop idea that we talk about, we want the mom and pop business. We don't want the Steve Jobs life.
Well, and what's funny is that I feel like there's so much expected of small businesses to just grow. And that's the ideal of you have to have employees and you have to have a warehouse, and that's cool. A lot of people do that.
And
want to do that.
Our country's built on that,
Right, exactly. But I think it's interesting when a couple or a small company's we don't really want to do that. We want to keep it small so that we can just pay our bills and make it work. And
so the other article that was interesting that's along the same lines is we've been talking these past couple of weeks about this other blog, FrugalWoods, one that I discovered from I think Chris the Dollar Flipper.
He linked to it
on our blog, which we love to find. It's new things from people that link to stuff, and So they're still in their job. So their kind of strategy is different from ours, where they're have these good jobs, well-paying jobs. They're saving every dime they can. They're saving into index funds in retirement. They're paying off all their debt.
Yeah.
And then they're just going to retire at
early.
33.
Yeah.
But the article's interesting because they talk about, they're currently still at working jobs, and they talk about the tyranny of a work week schedule,
Right.
And we've talked about this, that feeling of
working for the weekend.
It's Sunday night and tomorrow's Monday.
Yep.
Or, you come home from work and you're okay, I got about 3 or 4 hours to do things I need to do. I need to fall asleep so I can wake up and go to work again.
Exactly.
And those two articles kind of brought up the idea of what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, reading what other people do helps me think about, like, why we're doing what we're doing. Like, why have we made the choices we make, you know?
Well, what's funny is with FrugalWoods, she has this whole long thing where she's like, I wish that if I had an idea in the middle of the afternoon, I could just go do that. Not just put it on a list and hopefully be able to do it on the weekend, but there's so much stuff to do that I can't really do it. And then I'm like, oh, that's exactly what we do. Like, that is what our life is. I mean, granted, we work. I mean, we do a lot of work. But if we're like, I want to go, you know, like, change out the lights on the porch, which is what I did this weekend. Okay, I just had, like, 3 hours to do that because that's what I felt like doing, you know, and...
Yeah, you know, and, you know, we talk about us having, like, a mom and pop it's business. I think we forget in this country that that's what this country was built on.
Yeah.
We're like little tiny businesses. And still, small businesses employ more people than anyone, than even big, large businesses. But I feel like maybe it's like our childhood, like in the 80s, there's this thing about like going big.
Right.
You know, this idea of like the corporation and the conglomerate. And then like when the 90s tech industry happened you just can't start as like a little business. You have to start Facebook that's going to sell for $1 billion.
I mean, it's like that now. I mean, I think about people who are like building apps and they're like, I have to build the next Uber, you know, and you're just like, geez, is that what our generation is supposed to do?
And, you know, there are some people, I mean, we know them, where like they love to push themselves to build an empire like that. That's what they enjoy.
They want to do that.
And we need people like that, you know, but it's just not the only way. I mean, like, you know, and I like how one of the articles said, you know, there is this glamorous thing about always being busy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we know those people where, like, if you talk to them and they're just so busy, and it's kind of like a badge of honor that they have no time, they aren't sleeping, they aren't eating you know, and they're like, because they have so many things going on because their life is so full.
And glamorous,
And that's cool, but that just doesn't excite me.
I mean, we've gotten to that point sometimes where we're like, we have a job here, we have to travel here, we have like 1 week at home, and and sometimes it's fun, and sometimes you're like jazzed up for doing those things, but then you get to a point where you're like,
more and more, I'm like,
more and more.
I mean, like, we've already turned down 2 jobs this year that we normally would have taken, just because we don't have to take them, because we just balance, like, we know how much work it takes to do a job and to work for someone else and to do it right, you know? Because they're paying us to worry and to take on its responsibility, and I no longer really want to do that, regardless of how much they're going to pay us.
Yeah, exactly. We turned down a couple big jobs just because we were like, we really like our pace of life, you know, and the rental, you know, being able to put time into the rental, really, you know, we do have, you know.
Well, that's the thing. So we have to make money,
you know? No matter what,
because we have to. But the thing is, we've learned how to make the money in a way we enjoy. It's kind of like, I love this quote, like, we gave ourselves our dream jobs, you know, instead of waiting for permission or hoping someone came and knocked on a door, and you know, we've slowly built up this little mom and pop business where
we have just
we can say no to certain jobs because we're making money somewhere else in a way we really enjoy.
I also remember when we first started doing eBay and we started turning certain video jobs down because they were smaller jobs and not traveling or anything, and it was a great feeling of like, oh, we make enough doing this other thing.
Dude, but just like eBay, it seems like the lower paying jobs we would do would always be the worst. They would those
They'd
clients
be so demanding.
They would want more out of you, and the ones that pay you really well, those are the best because they treat you right. They travel, you know, they pay for travel. They
all that.
They treat you with much more respect. It's very interesting. It's just like on eBay where the people who are buying like $5 items from you are often the worst. They're squeezing you for everything and then complaining about everything.
And give you negative feedback. So
it's funny how that works out. So like, it's this week. We'll do our numbers in a bit, but we made about $1,400. So it was kind of a slow week.
Yeah, it was kind of slow.
So let's break that down in like a way maybe a business person might.
Sure.
So we made $1,400, so that means we made $700 each.
Right.
And if you assume, compare it to like a 40-hour week, we made $17 and it's 50 cents an hour.
Right.
Which is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
There's some people who would go crazy over,
Yeah.
that money. But we know that the kind of work we do, at the age we're at, we could be making twice or more of that.
Right.
You as a video editor,
At
me as like
a job, yeah.
a project manager. So we're not making as much as we would in the professional world. But I think its difference is like, a couple of things. Number one is because we're a frugal, the money we make
goes further.
Makes us seem like we're rich.
Yeah,
I feel rich because we don't spend a lot of cash.
Yep.
And we make the money we need to make. I mean, would it be great if this week we made $4,000?
Yeah, of course.
Sure,
it'd be awesome.
But we're not stressing that.
Right. And we have our time.
That's the main thing.
That's the biggest thing.
The big thing though is that if you look at it like a robot, you're like $17.50 an hour. It's like, all right, the first $36 an hour. It's like, okay, but the human element of that is the flexibility.
Yeah. Like what did we do this week?
This week we didn't do any eBay.
We did no eBay.
Well, except we shipped.
We shipped and answered questions and things like that. But
we didn't list or photograph.
We didn't do any of that. God, you always have to remember you have to remind me at the end of the week what we did. I'm like, what did we do?
I mean, this week we worked purely on other projects. And that was
on
like doing
house.
A lot of landscaping.
Yes.
And painting.
I did a lot of painting.
And just, multiple little details.
Yeah.
I love to make a list, It's like that. Being a project manager is like in my DNA.
Here's
I just got lists on my phones. And this week.
And I get emails of those lists.
You do. And then I expect an email back.
Done.
But it's great. Those lists are what make up any life, any business.
Yes.
Those little tiny details. And we rocked on those.
Yeah, we did a lot. And that was mostly because there were no renters for 4 days. We actually blocked that time off because we were like, we have to get this crazy, insane landscaping done. Let's also do painting.
So that's interesting. So if you think, okay, $17.50 an hour, but we didn't actually have to really, quote unquote, work for that.
I mean,
that's great.
We were working, but it was quite enjoyable.
That's where eBay, for us, has really kind of solved a huge problem.
Yep.
How do we make its money, but have a really flexible schedule?
Right, it's that pipeline.
And that's why the listed and it's forget it thing really works for us.
Yeah. And maybe if we had been listing, we would have had a more of a bump in sales. But like you said, we had enough sales that it was fine.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to do anything.
Right.
Other than other work we wanted to do.
And I didn't spend 1 second being worried up because we've done this for a while now.
Yeah.
Selling online that, I know some days are slow, some days aren't, and so I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And we're even about to go out of town in 2 weeks, so we're not going to do...
For 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be gone, it's for 2 weeks.
Right.
About 2 weeks, and we're not going to do any eBay then either. So there's going to be actually, over this past, month, or in this next month, there's going to be a large period where we aren't doing any eBay. But you know what? We're still going to make money.
Yeah, totally.
Which is great.
It is. It's amazing.
Something that we did in that interview a couple weeks ago with Chicago Tony V.
Chicago Tony V.
He talked about this. He's a traditional kind of business guy with he has one company for sure. Then I think he had a couple others, but he had about 15 employees. And he talks about always being on.
He can't just take off.
And that's good. It just shows that he's a really good businessman and boss. That's what he has to do, and that's why he's been successful for so long.
Right.
But he also talks about not really being able to take a vacation.
No downtime.
And always, because I can understand that too. I would be like that too. I would be I need to always make sure I'm on top of these things.
Right.
If I were to go away for a week or two,
everything will crumble.
I would lose track of a thread here or there. That's important.
Yeah. But And also, like we said, there are people who don't take a vacation or don't take time off as like a badge of honor. Like, I'm so busy. Oh, I don't have a day. I don't have a single second to myself, It's like, oh, God, that sounds horrible.
I've talked to guys like that who kind of like brag, like, I haven't taken a vacation in 6 years.
Talk to the Europeans. They'll be like, that's horrible. We take 6 weeks off every year.
And so, again, it's not really to say that one way is better than the other, but that's why I enjoy reading those links, and I'll put this on the blog so you guys can read these articles, that there's kind of a growing awareness that there's a different way.
Yeah.
There's the way that most of us get taught, and that's kind of like the popular American kind of myth or the idea.
Yeah. Build a business from dirt.
Start a business, it becomes Amazon, or start a business and, you have a factory, and just like, you're a monster, and that's great.
And some people can do that, and that's fine.
And that then there's this other way. And really, it was Mikey and Wendy that kind of helped open our eyes to that.
Yeah.
They were the first people we'd ever met who had purposely quit their jobs and like moved to a little rural area
where cost of living was so cheap compared to New York, because they moved from New York.
And because they, like us, are internet people, they figured out how to make a living online.
On the internet, yeah, exactly.
And now they keep it going, where now they just keep getting into different things that interest them. Like, now they're
on a super long road trip now.
Yeah, now the thing is, they bought like one of those Honda
Element, and they made it into like a little camper.
Right, so it's like a bed. It's
really cool, yeah. It's really amazing.
So now that's their thing, is during the summer when it's really hot where they live, they now travel around to parts of the country that are cooler.
I've been looking at their Flickr stream, and they're like, we're in this cool place, like drinking coffee, and like, it's awesome. I'm like, that's so cool.
And when we talked to them last, they talked about how they're trying to figure out how they can sell while they're on
have
the road.
A mobile store or something.
So it'll be interesting to catch up. It's with them again after like their long traveling season.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that.
How that worked. The other thing that I love, why being rich with a huge, gigantic business is not as interesting as to what we're doing now, is that I've learned that we find out things that we like that I wouldn't have time to have found out.
I wouldn't have known,
So, like, I never would have thought that I would enjoy renovating houses. No idea.
I kind of, like, have it in my blood already, but I never actually done it. And what was funny is, we kind of did a little bit when we lived in this apartment that a friend of ours owned.
That's right.
Where we started to do it, and there were so many things where I was like, oh, I want to change that light fixture. Oh, I'm going to repaint the bathroom. Like, all these things that I wanted to do. I'm like, oh, if we owned a house, we could, like, do anything we want, So that's a cool thing to be able to know that you enjoy, even though it can be stressful, But
of course, but I mean, anything that you enjoy can still be stressful or have some, but it's just that you enjoy doing it. Like, the fact that I love when we redid that other house, and why we want to get another is that I love going on Craigslist and finding people who are selling for cheap or giving away like old wood.
Yes,
it's amazing that people do that.
Yeah,
stone, like, that's really the fun part when you do
scavenging.
Where you're scavenging for its materials. Yeah. For windows, for whatever.
Appliances, like amazing, like, designer appliances that people are like, just get this out of my house. It's $100. I don't care.
Rugs. I mean, like, that's kind of the way we've been doing it. Yeah. It's, where we do it the opposite of maybe how other people might, where it's you have a big plan and there's maps and blueprints. Yeah. And then you buy everything to fit that. Instead, we have a general idea of what we like, but then we go out and scavenge. Yeah. And then based on what we scavenge, then that's what we do in the house. Yeah. And so it kind of, that's why it's fun, because it's like a surprise almost.
You're like, I don't know what rug's going to go in here, but we'll find it.
You're like, wow, that rug and that artwork and that beam we got.
It came together,
So I would have never known that if we
didn't have time.
Kind of start this life.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what's interesting is you learn what you don't like to do. Like with house renovations, like I've done tile work, but there's some tile work where I'm like, I am hiring that out. Like you really,
Sure.
You're like, I can find the stuff, I can clean up after someone. I know when to hire a professional to do the electrical.
Right.
Like I've known people who've done their own electrical in their house. Never in a million years would I want to learn how to do that. I can rewire a light, but that's about it,
Yeah.
So it's good to know things you don't want to do.
Yeah, those we found out that, or at least I did, especially that there's some things I don't like to do. Like I like to have the idea and to get the stuff for it.
Yeah.
But then I want someone else to, because they already know how to do it. They got all the tools.
They'll do it a lot less time than we'll do it,
and they'll do it right. I mean, it's mentioned this a lot, and this is also kind of an American myth. It's like there's the American myth of like it's working real hard, starting the empire, and then there's its myth might not be the right word. It's archetype. It's like, and then there's an archetype of, okay, the man or a woman that had that life, now they're old and now they don't know what to do because they've dedicated their life to this one thing. Like I talk about, it's my dad. He worked for the same person, the same institution for 30 years or whatever, and now he seems all right. He's comfortable, he's happy, but I think that's the thing. I don't want to be in my 70s and kind of have to start all over, right? Like I want to, instead of spending my life doing someone else's a vision, and then just ending it and then having to kind of start over. Yeah. Like, it's my third act, Right. I want us just to continue on a vision. Forever. Right. Until I take my last breath. Yeah. So where it all just makes sense,
I think we've been talking about that over the week because we've been working at the other house and talking with a friend of ours about rentals because this other person's interested in doing rentals too. Just thinking about how working at a job can really it sucks your time away and you're like, I want to do all these other things, but I have this job, so I don't really have time. It's like, I don't want that. We don't have that, and we're lucky to have started early to be like, we don't want that. We just want to do what we're doing and keep building on that and building and building and building and see where that takes us.
So we started a little adventure in 2006. Yeah. That's when when I quit my job. Yeah. You had already quit. I had already quit your job for a year. So I was 33 and you were 27.
How old was I? 26, 27.
So that's amazing,
Yeah.
I mean,
that's when we started to make our own video production business.
Yeah, and so we were freelancing, so we were definitely working for people. Yeah. But we did it on our own time, and that was when, we always talk about this, like the luxury of not having an alarm clock. Yep. We've not had an alarm clock for a long time. Even this week we had to set our alarm for a couple things because we had to meet a contractor.
Go do some meetings, but that's our own. We put those things together.
Yeah, it's much different.
But what's funny is that turning point was Mikey and Wendy. We lived in San Francisco and we visited them because a friend of ours knew them, and it was this whole thing of like, they literally were just like, quit your job. And we're like, what? What do you mean? They're like, live rent free.
Well, I mean, they were helpful, but we had already quit our jobs before. Right. They were more move out to the country.
So it's cheaper.
That was their thing. I mean, we had bonded with them because we had already quit our jobs, like they did.
That's true.
I mean, that's how we were hanging out with them. Is that we didn't have jobs.
We were on a road trip,
and we were just like, let's go hang out with you for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
But the good news is that we get people. There's a whole wide. It seems like on the blog, we just see it's these words that pop up, and there's all these different voices. Yeah. And some people I can tell are kind of on the same path, and some people are like, "This is so interesting. I'm thinking about doing this. It's myself, but it's scary." Yeah. I mean, the good news is I know for us is that we've been doing this year by year, and you start building. It's not the same struggle this year as it was the first year we started doing
it's very different.
Like that, it's first year, I know, there's like, I was worried,
Yeah. No, there were some times where it was a little bit scary, especially paying rent in San Francisco,
I mean, it's always scariest in the beginning, but I feel like a year we've been doing this, we build a safety, like a bigger safety net for ourselves. I mean, there is no real safety net on the outside, but we build it for ourselves.
Right.
And that would be things like a savings or assets, you know? Like, we didn't really have any assets when we first started, but now we have, land and houses. And, we have it's businesses,
right.
We started out just doing a video work for clients.
Right. And when that stops or you don't have a job for a couple months, you're kind of like, what do I do?
And that's why we started eBay. So now we have an eBay business.
Yeah.
And now we have a rental.
Yep.
I mean, so, these are things to help. So if one thing falls apart, you
just
have another.
Focus on the other ones.
I mean, the other thing is, which is so important, is we have experience now.
Right.
I mean, that's one reason why I think the first 8 years are always scary, is because we didn't have any experience.
Yeah.
You had more experience than I did because you kind of grew up.
Right.
Kind of with parents who were just kind of, it's making up their lives.
They helped me realize it was possible. Like, I'm like, we could just have a company together, and you're just like, what?
Right.
Okay. And, and we did.
Right. And so that's really important. And that's why I think it's, it's good to have the foresight that if you start, it's going to get better because you'll get better at, saving money and,
And making, like you said, safety nets for yourself, or diversifying your income into different aspects of your life.
And just specifically about eBay, because that's really what this podcast is it's much about, is like our journey with an eBay business is that, we have 4,000 items in our store now.
Yeah.
We started out with like 100.
Yeah.
That 4,000 items is like a safety net for us. And that's why we're always about having a big inventory.
Right.
Or why we do it for us. It makes me sleep better.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of search words out there.
Right.
When people are searching for someone to buy
something random. Yeah. And
we've always said this, if we ever get worried, if I'm worried about paying bills or whatever,
just list. Like when people are like, oh, it's been so slow. Okay, when's the last time you list? How much stuff do you have in your store? Okay, that's the answer. That's the only answer you can have, because that's the only control you have.
Right. I think we work harder when things are the absolute slowest. Or when we're...
Absolutely. When things are just selling, you're like,
yeah, right.
I'm just making money here. Right.
It's funny. But, those are the things that we do in our little mom and pop business,
Yep. Little 3-tiered business going on.
Okay, so let's get into our numbers this week.
Yeah.
So it's like we said, it was, relatively slow compared to, it's been a really good past 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So this feels slow.
Right, but it is kind of normal numbers.
But, we made about $1,455.
Right.
And we only sold 28 items.
Whoa,
We didn't really sell many items. But the good thing is our average price sold was about $52.
Because we had some high price items.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I mean, so out of those 28 items, only 5 of them were under $30.
Huh.
But over 7 of them were $75
and up. Yep.
So that's actually nice. So a fourth of what we sold was over $75.
Ooh, I love that.
And that's kind of, our slow goal is to keep raising the quality of the items that we sell.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's by either scavenging better items or just kind of researching them and putting them in a different context where someone might,
pay a high price. Pay
more for them.
This highest price item sold was a vintage Levi's suede leather jacket. I had make an offer on it, but it sold for $200 full price. I mean, I'm thinking my research yielded that they were selling higher than that, and I think someone saw this and just paid this is the best price, it's my size, let's just get it, I don't want to mess around with an offer. Or some people don't understand offers and they just
part of our thing of selling things for more is just having the, I don't know, courage might not be the right word, but, just having the gumption to put things
it up high.
I think that's where a lot of it's new people, they stumble, is that they're just like, I can't sell this thing I bought for $1 for $200. Like, what are these people going to think? And they're like, they're not going to think anything.
They don't know
They
you
have
bought
no
it for
idea
$1. They
how
don't
much
need to know.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we did sell less items. We had a good average price. And like I say, we did zero a listing.
Yeah.
We didn't list
nothing.
one single thing.
Yep.
I didn't take any pictures really either. So
Nope.
we didn't do any of that stuff.
And we spent almost no money on inventory.
Right.
I mean, we were very, very focused on the farmhouse. That we were there every single day this week.
Yep.
So
compared to it last year, we have 500 items more in our store
than a year ago.
From a year ago.
Wow.
So that's pretty interesting.
That's a big number.
It's a slow growth. You know? I mean, so we've been able to add 500 more things in inventory while we keep selling 200 things a month.
Right.
So that's good.
Oop.
Let's see what this is.
Someone told us to leave the sound on our phone so they could hear that we are active.
Someone offered us $50 for
a cookie jar.
A cookie jar.
Let me see, how much do I have it up for? That's the question.
Are we going to take it? Ta-da.
Hey, we just accepted that offer.
Cool. So like that's an example of like someone sending in a deal.
Yeah.
And us doing the math like, well, we want 80, they're offering 50.
But they want both of them. There's a matching pair.
But I only paid $2 for each one.
Yeah.
So you're going to make $100 on a $4 investment?
Yeah. Like why am I questioning that? What the hell?
And so it's last year. I can now look at our numbers
from last year.
The past. So in 2014, we sold 52 items. So
Whoa.
we sold almost twice as many, and we made 2,200.
Wow.
So, but that's not twice as much. Our average selling price was
$43.
It was about $10
less.
Lower.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
So that's what we kind of are aiming for, is that, we're making the same, it's money or close to it, but we're getting more per item.
Right, exactly. And hopefully, so you're selling less, but you're making the same or more.
I mean, obviously it'd be nice to sell more in some weeks.
And make more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but... So some other things that we sold this Pottery Barn, like super heavy duty candle holder that was in the shape of a reindeer.
I think you had that in the video.
The video, yeah, because I show half our because I do it on Wednesday, it's broken up like half the week and half the week. So yeah, you saw that on the video.
But that's a good example of like, we paid like $2 for it. It's pretty cool, kind of generic in a way. It's just like one of those kind of holiday kind of
it's just a Pottery Barn type deal-y thing, but it's on for $100
because it's cool.
It's cool, and it was very heavy, so it's like sturdy. Right. I also sold those owl lights. They're like the party, like RV lights. Those sold for $95.
We sold like a carpet purse. I don't know, like how you would describe it.
It's needlepoint, and they are antique, so they are old. I actually sold it for $95, and that was a huge sale. I think I had it up for $120, and they offered $95, and I'm like, it's like $1 purse.
Yeah, and that was like one of those things where, we were at an auction, and there was like a box of purses.
Yeah,
there were a lot of junky ones in there.
Yeah,
but I think I just saw
that
there
one.
were some of the older ones.
Yeah, so I went for it.
So another thing we sold was a mirror that was inside of it. It's a
brass
porthole.
Yeah, from a boat. We bought it in Amsterdam. We probably bought it for €1. And I sold it for $80 to someone in New York City.
So I like to think like that helped pay for our trip.
Yeah.
But I think of like the journey that thing took. We bought it in that huge flea market that we made a video of.
Yep.
And so we had to take it back to our apartment.
Yeah.
We had to take it back to our apartment. We had to wrap it up, put it into our bags, and ship it home.
Yeah.
So it definitely had a journey getting there. But we have that's how we love to travel, though, is we love to scavenge wherever we go. So it's, number one, a fun thing to do. But number two, we made it's money from it.
And it was a fun thing to find. Like, it's very cool to find, like, stuff, because Amsterdam's all about boats, because they have all the canals and all that stuff, and houseboats. So it's fun to find that stuff and tell people this came from Amsterdam. So it's a cool thing for people to have that. Something else that sold was a Swatch watch from the 90s, actually. It was dated 1992. I got a lot of lowball offers. I had it up for $120 because I couldn't find any other Swatch that looked like this one. And I think I sold it for $80. So that was great. That was a global shipping. I had paid for a new battery, though, because I wanted to make sure it worked, and it did.
I can remember being a kid when Swatch came out, and I couldn't get, or just, I didn't have any money. My parents weren't going to buy it for me because they probably cost $80 back then.
Yeah.
I always remember I wanted one.
Oh, everybody did. A friend of mine had one. I was so jealous. I was just like, oh, it's so 80s. And it's so cool.
And these are those like crazy, like fluorescent, colorful, like party watches.
Yeah.
They're just cheap plastic.
Yeah, they're just junky watches. But they sell for a lot of money on eBay.
And then we sold something that I'm very proud of.
Yes.
We sold a little blackjack table. It's like a half oval.
Yeah. It doesn't have the legs. It's a tabletop like blackjack.
Right. It's where you have some buddies over and you throw it on the table and then they like sit there and you're like...
It's like a casino.
But I got it at an auction over a year ago.
Yeah, a while ago.
No one wanted it. I think I would have paid $5.
Yeah.
I was the only bidder. So it was either $1 or $5. I forgot. It's when I got in on it. But... we've been getting low offers.
Low offers for the whole year.
It's going to be a little bit of pain in the ass to ship.
Yeah, it's kind of big. But the good thing is it is wood and it's, felt. So I can wrap it up in either probably a big plastic trash bag and then I'm going to wrap it in cardboard and it should be, that's fine,
But that's an awesome $120.
$120 it sold for. So we've been holding that in our storage. I was like, let's sell this thing.
But those are the exciting sales where you're like, number one, I got it for cheap, sold high. Number two, it's such a weird item that I love selling those. Number three, you get to empty out part of
storage.
It's your storage.
Like, get it out of storage. Okay, remind me what we did this last week.
So, we talked about this. So this week was, at our rental house.
Yeah.
We had a list of details that we wanted to finish up because...
Right. Because we were doing landscaping, so when we talk about landscaping, it's like these dudes with backhoes are like, scraping the ground.
We hired a neighbor of ours that has a bunch of big equipment, and we have 2 acres of land, and there were 2 parts of our property that were covered in like bramble
and
like
little scrappy trees,
broken down trees, and just it looked kind of ugly.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, let's clear it. And one of the areas is right by a stream.
Yeah.
So we wanted to clear that so
people could walk down there.
Hang out by a country stream.
Yeah, and we bought a picnic table to put down there just so people can kind of explore the yard and hang out and go, if you have kids, they want to like go and do stuff.
And it really looks great. It's
it's
one of those
amazing.
things where like, I think that'd be a good idea. And then when you see it happen, you're like, that's amazing.
That looks amazing.
Like it
what
opens
they can
up
do.
The area and...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even see that part of the yard. I just was like, what? I don't see anything there. But once it's cleared out, you're like, our yard is huge.
And that's the other thing. So on those pieces of land, there were some trees.
Yeah.
Probably a good 10 or 12 trees that we cut down. And some of them were kind of junky, some of them were nice, but none of them were like gorgeous trees.
I mean, we kept the nice trees, but yeah.
And so we cut those down. They actually cut them up in 18-inch sections, and that's
for firewood.
That's what I'd been doing all week. Is I had a wood splitter, a gas-powered wood splitter, and I'm just splitting wood.
Yeah, I love how on the comments you were like, I split 8 cords of wood, and people were like, oh my god, you must be really tired. And you're like, oh no, it's a machine. Like, I'm not splitting 8 cords of wood by hand.
I linked to
with
a
an
video
axe.
where it's just an old guy where he just like split. Just like,
split. Because those gas powered splitters are incredible.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
coming from a city, I did not grow up burning wood, so I didn't know anything about this. Yeah, I had this idea in my head of like Grizzly Adams, and he's got these like tiny logs, and he takes an axe and splits it in half. What I'm talking about is like some guy cuts down a tree where you can wrap your arms around these big circles of wood. Like you can't take an axe that.
That's going to take you hours.
First, you'd have to take a maul.
Yeah.
And you'd have to cut that thing, and then you could start doing an axe. I mean, it would be...
it would take so long.
Pioneers are incredible that they were able to do all this by hand. So nowadays, it's just, it takes some work. Like, I got to pick up these big, heavy things and stick them up there. But then this, 22-ton wood splitter
It's a hydraulic wood splitter. They're incredible. And what the great thing is, you can split enough wood for the entire winter.
Right.
In like a couple afternoons.
Right.
I mean, you've split almost all of it, and it's going to fill up both. We have 2 wood sheds.
So we've filled up 1 wood shed already, and my hope is before we go to LA on Saturday that I can fill up the rest. Other one. So then when the summertime comes and it's super hot and no one wants to work outside, we're done. And I don't have to, and then I don't have to do it in the fall either, and it's great.
Well, we've only split wood either in the spring or the fall, because if you're out on a hot day splitting wood, it's the worst. Even though it's all being done by machine, it's like the spring and fall is when you do your outdoor work.
But I really was, when I was splitting the wood, I was really thinking of the ant and the it's grasshopper. Like, we're totally the ants.
Oh yeah,
like.
We're scavengers, we're get it done early, we're preparing.
But the thing you were doing, which is really important, was painting.
Yes, so I had all these painting projects that had to get done, and you can't paint, like, in between renters being there. It's impossible. There's no time. So what I was doing is we have, like, if you guys have seen the pictures of the house, there's a wraparound porch around the house, and we had some extra lights installed in the ceiling of the porch. But the conduit, the metal conduit that holds the wire is beige, and the ceiling is like a light blue. And so I'm like, I gotta paint this conduit. So that took a while.
Right.
Took me 3 days to paint it.
And then there were just spots that either the paint didn't stick the first time or they're cracking.
Yeah, I was hitting it up while I was up there. And then I had this planter, this fiberglass planter that was like, had a hole in it. So I patched the hole up and then I painted that because it was really ugly anyway. So that was actually really fun.
Caulking.
Oh my God. Behind the kitchen sink in the farmhouse, I had used this it was like water-based stuff, but it said it was for kitchen and bath, but every time it got wet, it would like start to come off,
or it would just look
sticky.
Really bad.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I got to get the silicone stuff because that's the stuff that's pure waterproof. So
in our house, that's the person that does that stuff. That's Ryan.
Yeah, and the
Ryan's
handy
like
woman.
It's fixing holes in the wall. Like, I don't like to do that.
Yeah, I like doing stuff like that.
I like to make a list to put that on there.
Yeah.
But I don't like to do it.
So I was doing stuff like that, like little things like that.
But we were having fun though, right?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, what's great is when you can just say, this is my list of stuff, and this is all I'm going to do. Like, when I feel pressure, like, you got to do this, but bring your computer over to the other house, because we have Wi-Fi over there, and you got to be listing in between that. It's like, just focus on one thing. It's like, paint the ceiling. Great. That's all you have to think about, you know.
And, I grew up in a house where, both my parents worked. I mean, they didn't have a lot of free time. And I just remember, there were things in my house that needed to get done that just never got done. And I know friends that had houses like that, too, because, people are working.
Yeah, they're
too hard.
busy.
They don't have time and they're off time.
They don't want to hire someone to do it.
To do things, so it just never gets done. So you have some, half-painted room, or you have a hole in the wall that doesn't get fixed, or there's a problem.
Yeah.
And I like that we can finish things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to live in a place where something is half done.
Yeah.
But that's also because we have the freedom to
have time to do it. Yeah. And to want to do it. Or, like we said with the landscaping, hire someone to do it. We're like, first of all, this is a business investment because it's our business property. So it's massive. Alrighty. Massive landscaping that's getting done. So
I've been enjoying on the blog to read like people's really excitement about flea markets and yard sales. It seems like it's a lot of them are going to yard sales, church yard sales, community yard sales, and like Steve is like talking about, he's like addicted to yard sales. He can't stop yard sales because I get that because I did that as last year. It's with this one flea market. It was like, if I don't go,
I'm going to miss everything.
I always say that someone could be right now putting their hand on this item that they're going to buy for $1 that's, worth like $300. Yeah. That should be me.
Yeah.
But, this year we actually have not been we haven't gone to my favorite flea market one time.
Nope.
And we've been going to yard sales, but it's always just been like,
we happen upon them.
Yeah, like we're driving around doing stuff and like, oh, look, a yard
There's
sale.
the yard sale, let's stop.
But we are not like opening the paper up and, this day we're going to 5 of them.
And mostly the reason is because we have the rental. I mean, the rental is so much work on the weekends.
But it's also because we have too much stuff.
We have too much stuff. Period, yes.
Even for me where I'm like, I don't care, we'll store it somewhere. I mean, not like we're stopping ourselves from going, but I don't have... right now, like this huge urge, like I need to go out and get more stuff because we have a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
We just have to process it,
Yeah, we do. So that's what happens when for 2 weeks we're like, we didn't list, but we still made money. Yeah, but our house is filling up with stuff.
Yeah. And then we're getting ready for LA. We're going to be in LA for 10 days, in San Diego for 3
nights.
or 4. So, that's a thing about when we take these jobs for other people. It's a nice payday.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
That money, we're just going to throw at some debt.
Yes.
But
it's like we don't even see that money. We work and it goes away.
But it takes time to prepare.
Yes.
And so that's another kind of reason why we haven't been doing a lot of eBay too, because you were just like, we're on these email threads and we're planning and
we're researching
questions and
all this stuff.
There are people other technical people who we have to work with at the event, so we have to make sure they understand us, we understand them.
Yeah.
So, you go there and then everyone's up to speed. That's what the hope is.
Right. And I have to prepare all my equipment, and I have to organize it and clean it off from the last event. So that's stuff I have to do.
Okay, so the other thing is, and I don't think we've ever really kind of talked about this, but because it just happened, we're going to talk about it. So it's the beginning of the month. It was May 1st, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And this is something we now do. It's on our calendar.
Yeah.
It's like it's on our calendar each and every month, and that is we kind of take care of beginning of the month task or end of the month task. And that's like importing all of our financial info.
Yeah, so on GoDaddy Bookkeeping, we have a lot of our stuff automatically synced, and a lot of it is automatically categorized, but because we have two smaller local banks, I have to manually import that in, which is fine. It's still super easy. It's all electronic. So I'm importing that, categorizing it, and making sure like every check we wrote is like properly categorized and stuff. So that's like my first of the month thing that I have to do. So last month's bookkeeping is done.
How long does it take you? An hour?
Yeah, max an hour. I mean, max. Yeah. It doesn't take
And
that
so
long.
by doing that, for an hour at the end of every month or
beginning of the month,
then when tax day comes,
we're done.
Which a lot of people hopefully have done.
Yeah.
It's
everything's
easy.
categorized. Yeah. I mean, I just go through and clean up the spreadsheet.
I mean, the other reason why it's important, too, is that we start getting a sense of our tax bill because we can start to see, like,
how much money we made.
We're really doing good.
Right.
Better than last year. We're probably going to owe some more taxes, so we better make sure we put some more tax money aside or make sure we're paying more into the quarterly taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Or paying quarterly so that when the end of the year comes, it's not so much of a shock.
So we did that.
So we did that.
That's important.
And I have like, and now that we have the rental, I have to pay state rental tax and it's called use tax, I think.
It's
transient occupancy tax or whatever it's called. So I have to pay the Virginia state tax and I have to pay the county tax. So I have to tally up my numbers from the rental and do that. So I did that on you don't have to do it till the 20th because they understand that people don't do their bookkeeping right on the 1st, but I try to do it on the 1st so I'm not like, did I do that already?
Right, and it's
like,
good
boom,
to get that money
done.
out of our account.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of my new monthly task to know how to do that. And put the flea stuff on the cats.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, we had a couple of years ago, we have 3 cats. And we had a flea outbreak.
Oh my God.
I'd never been involved in a flea outbreak.
Horrible.
But where you're like sitting on the couch, it's so gross. You're sitting on the couch and you just feel these little like things on you, and you look down and there's like little fleas jumping around, and they're like,
it is horrible.
And you're like walking on the rug and they're like jumping.
Oh my God. It's like you never want fleas.
I really wanted to drop a nuclear bomb on our house.
I mean, some people bomb their house. I mean, that's what they do. It's called a flea bomb, and they do it. But we didn't do that. But we did. First of all, the cats had to get moved outside. So in the summer, they live on the front porch, which is fine.
Or they're outside, but they can sleep.
They can sleep indoors. In the front screened-in porch.
But also, we now put the
flea stuff.
That flea stuff on.
I think it's called Advantage. I forget what it's called.
Because it's before, we were like, oh, that's kind of a ripoff, you know?
Oh, and we were like, oh, it's chemicals or whatever. After the house was infested, never again. The first of every month. It doesn't matter if it's January. It doesn't matter. They get it every month.
And this is kind of going off topic, but we learned from other people online.
Scavengers.
Scavenger and thrifty people. You know, if we were to buy the cat stuff,
it's expensive.
It's like $10 a cat, so it'd be $30 a month. I mean, that's
it's expensive. A lot of money.
But what you can do is you can just buy the larger container of the same kind of for a large dog, but then you just split it up among the cats. So really, it comes down to what, like a couple bucks a cat.
I mean, it's like $50 a year,
right? And
that's for 3 cats.
So it's almost like you're buying the same stuff, but the way they package it is
like makes it cheaper. I don't know. But what's funny is when you go to the vet and the vet's like, oh, I'll put the flea stuff on for your cat. They get the dog stuff out and use a little. I'm like, if that's what you're doing, I'm going to do that. Like, I don't need you to do it for me. Anyway, so that's a scavenger pet thing.
Scavenger pets.
But, so the rental property, have you been talking about?
That's a cool thing about having a rental, is we're finding, is that we book for the future, so we're like booking sales. Oh
my God.
$97 for some flatware.
Yes, we just sold some flatware. It is vintage flatware, canoe muffin style. It's not Echo Eterna, but it was $100. $96.
Pretty nice.
It's a good sale.
So, you know, it's finite nights, so it's always exciting for us when we can book a whole week.
Yes.
So it's in August, some father who's booking for his family, and we get to have like a bit of a conversation with people about why they're coming, and they're like, my family, and it's my son's coming from college, so it's cool. We also booked some more weekends in June. So really, and it's not a surprise because it's a vacation rental. All of our weekends are booked. Are almost all booked for the summertime. And mainly that's like Friday and Saturdays.
Friday night and Saturday night.
And then, some people do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday through Saturday. But it's weekends, and those have gone first. But now we're trying to book like
weekdays. But the good thing is in summer people are vacationing, so we're hoping maybe it's last minute because in May we have 17 nights booked, but we would love to have 25.
Yeah, I mean, 25 is our ideal.
Yeah.
Where we can get, I would love 20 would be good.
Would be great, yeah.
But, at 17 nights, we're still happy.
Yeah.
So now we're thinking, it's a little too early to do, but kind of like with eBay, we started out selling things pretty cheap, and then we would, like, raise our prices as we figured out who was buying from us and the quality we were giving people. We could feel like we could raise the price, like selling some flatware for $96. I would not have done that in the early days. So now we're thinking maybe next year
we'll raise the price.
Would we raise the price on the weekends? Because if people want the weekends...
Like, the weekends will go no matter what, right?
Maybe we charge $250 a night for a weekend night, you know?
I'm thinking so.
So...
Those are just things we're kind of, you know, experimenting with. Like, is that going to work? Are we going to book as many? Maybe not.
And so, you know, we're about to go out of town for 10 nights. But we have renters still coming. And so we've mentioned it, that we have a local friend who's going to take care of our place.
Right.
So
and we're going to pay him. It's not just like because he's our friend.
Right. So he's been actually hanging out with us when we've had renters come over. And he's actually going to come over and help us clean one day. Because that'll be part of his job. And he'll basically do what we do. And so he'll get paid 20% of our profit.
Right.
For any night that someone's staying there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see how that it works out. He seems excited to buy it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Because that would really be a dream for us. So, like, in the fall, we want to go away for 6 weeks.
Yeah. And
the fall is, like, the really hot and heavy time for our area because people like to come to see the leaves turning.
The leaves and really go on hikes, and it's cool.
If we could have him rent the whole time for us.
We're making money, he's making money. We're making money on eBay. We're going to Europe for a job. It's like, okay, it's all good.
This is where, you know, putting the puzzle pieces over time are, you know, it's our dream job.
Right.
You know?
So we're it's always nerve-wracking though, because like we are the kind of people like with our eBay business where we're like, not that we don't trust other people, but like to train other people to do it how you do it, how the quality you expect. You know, you're like, you know, are they gonna, you know, do it as well as we do it? And so it's nerve-wracking, but I'm hoping it's going to be fine.
Now, one interesting thing, so we had a couple from India come and stay, and they actually stayed over a week at our place. And I mean, they've been to America many times. They were very, you know, they're tech people, so they're like very international, like probably as we are.
Yeah.
But they are from India.
Right.
And I remember she texted me one night, one of the first nights she had been there, and she was like, "Is this house safe?" And I was like, I didn't know what
You're like,
she
what
meant.
do you mean?
Like, you know, there's a lock on the door. Like, and
she's
just like,
outside.
And she was telling me, you know, where they're from.
Yeah.
You know, there are bars on all their windows.
Yeah.
And like a gate, like a
big metal gate,
big iron gate on their door with like bolts. And she's just like, you know, your house. Like the back door where, you know, people are coming in and out.
It just has a
single
window.
pane glass window. Someone could just pop it and get inside the house. I mean, someone could get in any window just by breaking it.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, it was difficult for me to have to tell her, like,
that
it's
doesn't
safe.
happen.
Like, you know, that's not. So it was interesting to kind of come up against that cultural, like,
now,
difference.
That's not to say that stuff doesn't happen in the United States, like, or in our county.
Right.
You know, of course crime happens, but I mean, that house sat empty for 3 years.
Right.
No one there. I mean, we were there during the day working and whatever, but there would be weeks where we'd be away. Not a single thing happened.
But, you know, when she and her husband left, they gave us, you know, feedback. And they just really kind of raved at how I think it just took them a couple days to get into the kind of country life that we have here in our county, where it's quiet, it's peaceful.
No one's going to bother you.
There just aren't a lot of people, and, you know, I think that maybe that's something that they just don't experience when they're in India. So it's good. It was fun to kind of give someone that experience.
Right, yeah, it was definitely culturally different for them.
So let's talk about customer issues with eBay.
Yes.
You know, number one, I just want to say Airbnb, just like eBay, has, you know, you can leave a
feedback,
review. Feedback. And, you know, you can leave it for a renter, and the renter can leave it for the landlord. I guess the right terms. Yeah. But they have an interesting thing. Each party has 2 weeks.
Yeah, 14 days.
To actually leave it. And if if I understand right, if one person doesn't leave one, then none of them get posted.
Right. So you can only see the review that they left you if you leave a review.
Right.
So, like, if we go to the house and the house is clean and we're like, great, they left the house super clean, we're like, okay, we're leaving them a review right now. Like, Jay gets on his phone and leaves the review.
Plus, I also tell them, I'm going to leave you a really good one.
Yeah, we're so happy you left the house so clean and whatever.
Right. But I find that that's helpful because we've gotten feedback from every person who stayed there.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
And I know eBayers have a problem because a lot
People
of buyers
don't
leave it, but that's good because the buyer wants the feedback as much as the owner does because they want other owners to see that they're
good renters.
So
yes,
and so a renter knows if they don't leave something, then they aren't going to get a feedback back. So
it's an interesting system. So it's almost like that would be interesting for eBay. Like if you don't leave but then again, no feedback sometimes is good feedback because you don't want the low stars or a neutral.
A couple of months ago when we first started, we were so hungry to get some feedback so everyone could see that we were doing a good job. I was really tempted to like harass people, like please leave me feedback. But like eBay, it's like you don't want to harass people, so it just worked out.
Yeah.
But as far as eBay goes, I don't want to jinx this, but I'll go ahead and say it. Those owl lights that we sold for $96, they were new in the package,
sealed in the box.
I mean, these were from like the 70s. So they were still sealed. I mean, the packaging had some, wear on it because it was just thrown in a closet somewhere. But the guy got them, and then he wrote us back and said, I want to send them back because they aren't the right color for my room.
Yeah, they don't match the other ones I had, is what he said. So what I said was, now, the funny thing was he seemed new because he's like, oh, I see you accept returns. This didn't really work out. Can I return it? Most people are like, they just start a return case.
Right.
So what I said was, because I don't want him to return these, he spent $100. I said, as long as they're sealed and unopened exactly how I sent them to you, then you can return them.
Right.
Have not heard a word from him.
Yeah, and so
I'm pretty sure he opened them.
Yeah, and so we're hoping he'll be like, I mean,
God.
The good news is that even if he did return them, it would suck if he opened up the box because that was kind of the cool thing.
Them.
We can still sell them. We have the 20%
restocking
fee, and so 20% of $100 is $20. So basically, he would be paying us $20
to return
them. So we're hoping he won't return them. But that was a good thing that Ryan did, where we don't tell him he can't, but we just want to make him double
think it,
double check why he's doing this,
Well, what's interesting is, we had the advantage of it being new in the package. So we're like, no longer new in the package, so, I might not give you all your money back, or something, or like, I didn't say that, but it just kind of makes them pause.
So a bit of news, I'm sure everyone got this message. So eBay sent a thing saying they're going to close down part of their site, and that's
the traffic reports, right?
Yeah, the traffic reports, which I never used because they sucked.
They suck so bad.
And I think even when we were all talking about stats or keywords, someone linked to Griff on eBay Radio, and he was like, I never heard of keywords. I don't even know if they work. Traffic reports don't even work. I mean, it's like
we're like, oh, no kidding.
It's like there are parts to eBay that are just from the old days, and I don't know why they even have them still up there. But traffic reports are one of those. Number one, they were horribly laid out. But number two, I didn't even trust the data they were giving me.
And the data was old.
Right.
You're like, oh, what was my most viewed thing 3 months ago? I'm like, I want this week, you know?
I'm not here to complain about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're admitting, like, okay, this is dead wood.
Yeah.
And they say we'll introduce new features to it replaces the current stored traffic report. I mean, that's what we've always said. eBay's a giant internet conglomerate with thousands of engineers is working for them. They should have like a Google Analytics for You know,
absolutely.
Like when I look at our stats for a
blog.
blogger or for a YouTube, its videos. Like there are these dynamic graphs that pop up, and I can click on different like search terms.
You can see who's linking to us this week. You're like, wow, we got a lot of traffic. Oh, it was because this other blog talked about this interview we did.
And it's super
really
interesting.
helpful.
And I don't know why. I hope Google is going to do something that cool. Like I hope eBay is going to do something that cool. I have hope that companies can evolve for the better.
Yeah.
You know, like
definitely.
That's what I hope.
And statistics like that are really helpful. Like, are people looking at my furniture a lot or not? Or, you know, I don't know. It's good to know. Okay, things we learned in the comments this week. A couple people actually wrote to us about us swearing on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't really remember this, so I don't know, but
I think I said the F word.
But we had several people say, but they made it seem like we or you were cussing continuously.
Constantly, yeah.
And I don't really remember that. So. But, you know, I think that because we don't curse very much, it probably popped out at people. I know some people, they have children listening.
That's true.
We felt a little
I forgot
bad
about that.
But, you know, I do want to remind people, though, that, you know, we're like grown adults.
Yeah.
And this show is supposed to be for other adults who are selling on eBay. And that, you know, we're running a business, as I like to say, without a net. You know, like if we don't sell or do good in our business, we'll lose our home because we can't pay our mortgage.
Right.
You know, so this is for real.
Yeah.
So we are going to go through ups and downs, fear and excitement of running a business and kind of running our own lives. And so we're going to talk like adults sometimes.
Right.
So we don't like to curse, or at least I don't like to curse a whole lot, you know.
Right.
But it may happen. So this is going to be a PG-13 podcast if people need to, like, make a decision whether or not to listen to us or not, whether this is going to be, you know, a kid-friendly podcast.
I mean, basically, I also don't like to censor ourselves. Like, if we're going to say something and that's how we would normally say it, that's just
I mean,
how it goes.
I always say, like, this is not like a radio show.
Yeah.
This is more like a little diary. Like, we just kind of hit record, and then we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
Like we always talk to each other. And so this is like, you're in on a kind of a little, like a secret conversation we're having, you know?
Yeah.
And so.
Exactly.
I mean, the other thing is, I think people sometimes forget, because there's a lot of it on the internet, that we're like motivational speakers.
Right,
you know, like there are those guys, what's his name, Pat Flynn or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You know, these guys, like, their whole purpose is, and they sell themselves as, like, they're motivational speakers to, like, get you how to be a good businessman.
Yeah. That's not us.
We're not really motivational speakers. We're like people you might meet on the corner of a street that might
digging through the garbage.
Yeah.
That is what we would be doing.
Imagine that. You walk up on a street corner and you see a couple digging in the garbage for stuff, and you might have the bravery to go up and talk to us or those people, and we might have some interesting things to say, but really anything could happen.
Yeah.
So that's how you have to imagine this is.
Exactly.
Little trash elves in the garbage.
Right. Who swear sometimes.
Who sometimes swear.
Yeah.
But we're, that's all.
That's all.
We just want to make that clear.
So there are a lot of people talking about storage this week, kind of trading their storage system.
It was cool. Someone started, I'm sorry, I don't always remember who said what, but someone had been like, we're renovating a part of our house, or I'm being allowed to, like, get one of our part of the house for storage because their business is getting bigger.
Yeah.
What would the dream storage setup be? And so people started jumping in on how they're doing it.
Right.
Like, you know, we talked about how, you know, that plastic storage, those plastic shelves,
they've collapsed on us before.
Yeah, you know, like that seems to be the easiest. Like, go to Walmart or Lowe's and you get these plastic. They really aren't that cheap. It's like $50.
Yeah, they're expensive.
They're easy to put together, and it's cool. Like, if you had some, like, I don't know, some, like, games or something, or, you know.
Yeah, just like lightweight stuff.
But that's if you have like a handful of things. I mean, we started with those too, and we would put things in plastic bins, and I start putting plastic bins on these things, and I put them all the way high. And one day I came in and just like one of the shelving things are just all falling over. And there was
glass that was broken. Yeah.
So some people were saying that you can buy those steel. Like it's kind of like
like a culinary
erector set or a culinary thing. They look
like metal culinary shelves. Yeah.
Those I think would be pretty good too.
Right.
I mean, what we have in our storage sheds for the most part are actually built-in shelves. Where you go and you buy 2x4s and plywood, and you build custom shelves, and you actually put it into the wall.
Yeah.
And, we've just made them to where they're the perfect height for those plastic bins.
Yeah.
So you're maximizing space.
Right.
And, I mean, we can put anything on there.
Oh, Jay can stand on there and use it as a ladder.
Sure.
I mean, they're really sturdy. So we love those.
But it's a good conversation because, for us to build our eBay business to where it's making a full-time income, it's for us. Solving the issue of storage was huge.
Yes.
Like, there's only so long you can get by with just having a bunch of stuff in like a single...
in a corner.
Little corner somewhere or in a closet. Like, at some point, it gets to be too much.
Right. Or stuff gets lost, stuff gets broken.
Yeah, or you just can't grow anymore.
Yeah. So storage is key for the way we do it, which is a big inventory.
Now, something that someone had mentioned, and you actually a link to it. I will link to it on the blog.
Yeah.
You can see the buyer requirement activity log, and that's where you can see who wasn't allowed to buy from you.
Yeah. Someone linked to this a few months ago, too, and we were looking at this. Basically, I can't see the username. It anonymizes the username for me. But you can see what people tried to buy and the reason they weren't allowed to buy it, which is like, these people didn't have a PayPal account. Because I'm like, how are they going to pay if they don't have a PayPal account? I don't want to deal with those people. Unless they... are going to send a money order. I haven't had that happen in a really long time. Or they had too many unpaid strikes.
That's going to be the biggest one. So each of us as a seller can make that choice. Like who can buy from you and who can't. And so we have it to where if people have two
unpaid item strikes
in 6 months, they can't buy from us. And so I see some of those people too.
Yeah.
Now, some people on the blog are like, well, I don't care if they haven't paid other people. Like, if they pay me, that's fine. And that's true. I guess if you're talking about buy it now, so they have to pay immediately,
there's no problem.
It doesn't matter.
But if they make an offer or do an auction, they're more likely not going to pay.
And part of me is kind of like, I kind of like the whole idea of like there's consequences.
There are consequences.
It's almost like I'm in solidarity with my other sellers out there. So they can't buy from me, and they need to learn they need to pay everybody.
Yeah, or if they can't pay, they need to resolve it properly,
But I will link to that on the blog, and you can see who has been trying to buy from you.
It is interesting to see the list.
The other thing is someone is mentioning, it was Chad.
Yes. You remember the name.
I do. He... because he's got a picture in...
The picture helps.
I always see the picture of his face. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's
when people have a picture, it helps us remember the names. Because if it's just the blogger symbol, I'm like, who's that?
So, he's building his eBay business, and he was talking about he's going to go somewhere he's going to a concert, but he's going to do some scavenging as well. And he's like, can I write this? Can he write that off or not as an expense? And that's an interesting conversation, that if you are starting to do eBay as a business, then you need to start to think as it's business owner rather than just someone that's driving around. You can write off a lot of your travel and food and hotels,
especially if you're working during that time.
But see, again, it's hazy, and that's why you need to get an accountant, because the accountant can walk you through to make sure you're properly saying this is business,
right,
and that you're documented in a way where you can prove that you're on
you
a
were
scavenger trip.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all those things are good, but that's where you save a lot of money on taxes.
Yeah, so...
I mean, that's what Mitt Romney does.
Yep, he certainly does.
Mitt Romney.
He's got a low tax rate, that's for sure.
And then Flim.
Flim, F-Lim.
F-Lim. I forgot her real name.
Faith,
okay. She's great. She's our New York...
Yeah, scavenger.
Scavenger. Yeah. I'm surprised there aren't just scavengers out the wazoo from It's New York on our blog.
Yeah.
But she's the one.
Yeah.
And so, and we're always trying to get her to...
Quit her job
and go full-time scavenging.
Yep, scavenge New York.
But she went to Target.
Yes.
And did some retail arbitrage.
It was Lily Pulitzer. Lily Pulitzer died recently, I think about a year ago. And so...
She's like a fashion
designer, she's a designer. Right? And so they're doing something at Target with Lily Pulitzer designs. And she went and bought a bunch of them, and she sold them for like 10 times what she paid. Right. Like, she paid $30, and she sold them for like $3.50.
Right.
So that's really awesome. That's incredible. Her numbers this week were insane.
And she talked about how people were messaging her really angrily because, everyone knows what the real price is, but...
Yeah, but if people are willing to...
But Target purposely only sold a certain amount of it, so it's like classic retail arbitrage.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So that was cool to hear.
And then people were asking about, or commenting on the Walkman that we sold. It's like the classic...
yellow sports Sony Walkman.
From the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And, we sold ours for $120, and people had been like, well...
No, it sold for $150.
$150, and people are like, well, the same ones are selling for $30. Like,
yeah, and you know what? I looked it up, and they're right. I'm like, first of all, why did I put $150? I don't know. Why did someone pay $150? I don't know. Right. There's the same ones that say they're tested, they work for $30.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the headphones that went with them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Part of me feels like it's this, and this is what we always say about people who like to sell things cheap. That's cool. But you know what? And someone may buy their thing first, but then their thing's gone, and then we're there. And that's a whole thing that, there might be other people that have cheaper stuff, but theirs will eventually get bought, and you'll still be there. And, if it's an item that, has some kind of popularity, it will eventually get bought.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the other thing, too, that Chicago Tony V said. Some people like to pay more. They don't trust an item if it doesn't cost them more because they're like, why would this thing be so cheap?
Yep.
Maybe there's something wrong with it.
Well, the other thing, too, that I've done as someone who's buying stuff for our farmhouse and, for ourselves, I will pay more for something if I see that the person is a top-rated seller with lots of good feedback. Because if I have an issue, or if I need to return it, or if I have a question, I know that person is going to get back to me.
Right. I mean, I know I've had this problem with buying on eBay where, I'll find something, I think it's a good deal, it's cheap, but it's from like a new
seller.
A seller, and then I'm always like, because this has happened where I'll get it and they haven't shown these problems because they just didn't know they had to do that. And so I'm like, okay, I got a good deal, but it's not exactly what in the shape I wanted because the person didn't really
describe
know.
It well. I've had happen.
So that's why, I mean, I hope that the fact that we have really good feedback and we're experienced in selling that gives people the confidence to pay more because it's they know that when we're charging $150, they're going to get $150 item.
Yeah, like a good
with love
item.
Like I kiss it for them.
Okay, no, you don't, because I packed it.
All right, so our coming week, we leave next Saturday, flying out to LA. So our next podcast will be done from the great state of California.
That's true.
this week, I am photographing everything in our home. Now, several weeks ago, I said that I cleaned out our house. You know what? 2 big halls has now refilled.
Yeah.
We have like a front room.
Oh my God.
It's filled up with, I have
just
antlers
stuff.
and software and patches.
Artwork, curtains,
Al salt and pepper shakers. So that's my job this week is like, I want to photograph all that stuff and get it packed up and put away.
Right.
Because our friend will be staying
at our
us.
house, and taking care of our rental house. So,
and then, some listing probably.
Yes, I'll be doing that stuff. I'll preparing myself for Los Angeles a little bit. The finishing of the landscaping is happening this week.
Yep.
Hopefully, that will get done. And
I'm going to be pulling more wood. Every time we go to the other house, I fill up the truck full of chopped wood, and then I come and I'm going to be filling it up into our thing.
So that's good.
And so that's a lot right there.
Yeah, actually, we're going to leave Friday night to go stay closer to the airport because the airport's far away. So that'll be a little bit earlier then.
Okay, so let's answer the questions that people have either emailed us or called.
So you can call us at 540-407-8486, and we do not pick up. It is just a voicemail, and you have 3 minutes to leave a question or a comment.
Yep, first call.
Hey, Ryan and Jay, this is Evan. I'm an eBay seller, and no questions. Just want to say how much I enjoy your podcast. I listen to them every week. I've been doing it for about a year now, and you've helped me grow my business so much, and I really appreciate it. So you guys take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Cool. We love calls like that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to play this just to show how cool we are. We want to play this because we love hearing this, because really the point of us doing this and for us all to kind of be on the blog together is like, we're all figuring it out, you know?
Yeah.
And we love to hear that other people are figuring it out for themselves or running little businesses. Like, that's the whole point of all this, you know?
Right. We're not alone.
Yeah. That you're also trash shelves on the street corner.
Swearing.
Where anything can happen.
Hey guys, this is Dwayne in Jay's birth town in Texas. I went on vacation and I tried what you guys were talking about, how you handle your sales by extending the shipping date out, and it worked out really well. And one person that made a purchase, they said that their address was different, and if I would please, when I get back, check that I get the right one. So I thought it was a piece of cake to tell them just to change it in their eBay settings, and they did it. And when I got back home, I had a bunch of stuff to ship out, so I didn't check it, and I sent it on out. And come to find out, after a purchase is made, eBay will not update that shipping label. It'll stay with the old address. This package went around the country about 4 times before it finally came back to me. So it would be a good idea to know that if someone changes their address once they've made the purchase, it's not going to change when they change their settings.
Okay, yeah. So if they change their address after they've purchased something, for some reason eBay kind of has their old address, not kind of. They have their old address in the shipping, information section. So what I do is I think you can change, here's the thing. You can change their address in the order information. Like if you click on the order number, you can change the address, but that doesn't change it for the shipping label. It only changes it if you're printing an invoice, which I like to do with the proper address. So you have to go in and manually change it on the shipping label, which sucks, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So what I do is I just make sure that I write a note for myself. If I have a note of all the stuff I have to get from storage when we get home, next to that item, I'm make sure you have the right address for this particular item. Just make sure you get the address from them. What's the address you need me to send it to? Great, I'll make sure to send it there.
And that's just really just one of the many thousands of details that you just have to handle, and
exactly.
Trust me, we only know these things because we've made every mistake that people call about, we've made that, and that's why we know the answer.
Exactly.
Okay, we got a kind of a question comment from email. A woman who is on the blog often, she wrote and said, she mainly buys a certain kind of thing, little small things, trinkets, that kind of thing, clothes. She saw that there was a piece of furniture that she saw at, I guess, a
thrift store.
Yeah. And she was like, that's really interesting. I don't buy furniture, though. So she went home, and then she really thought about it. And then I think she did some searching, and she realized...
Because there was a label on it,
and she was like, this is a tobacco cabinet, like an old-fashioned where they would store tobacco.
Made by Benson and Hedges.
That even had the label.
So it was old.
It wrote us kind of with excitement that it's something new, and she went back and bought it for $125. And we were kind of going back and forth, because it's the kind of stuff that we find where there's nothing like it on eBay.
Yeah.
Like, it's not being sold.
Right.
It's not really on the internet because it's kind of a really rare piece.
Yeah.
And we found one with her that it said it's sold, but it didn't say for how much.
Yeah.
So she ended up putting it for, I want to say, like over $3,000. Yeah. And I think she'll get it.
I hope she'll get it. It's a really cool piece. But that's one of those examples where, okay, you don't buy and sell furniture. Well, maybe now you do. Right. Like, now you're like, I could possibly make $3,000 on this. I'm going to take a chance.
And I could just tell that she was excited by, she enjoyed the piece.
Right.
She was excited by it. She was excited about researching it. And we were excited, too, because we were going back and forth with her. It's
fun to share that.
The fun.
Yeah, that experience, for sure. So good luck. Tell us when you sell it. I want to know.
Hey guys, it's Dwayne in Texas. I have some venting I want to do. I really enjoy selling on eBay, but life somehow always seems to get in the way. I work a full-time job with overtime, and everything else in life that we have to do, it seems like there's just not enough time to sit down and list. And I would like to one day be able to get to a point to where I can do eBay full-time. But in my household, I'm the only one that really participates in it, so nobody else really wants to do anything on it. And if there's anybody else out there that would have any tips or ideas on how to manage a full-time plus overtime life plus squeeze in some eBay, that would be really nice to hear.
So, this is Dwayne again.
Yep. He called back like 2 minutes later. It was really funny. It's really cute.
But, we don't mind it's multiple calls if they're good. And this is a good one. I think that he is verbalizing the issue that a lot of people have who are selling on eBay.
Right.
Where it's kind of a part-time thing, and then they realize they're doing pretty good, but they hit a ceiling pretty quick because they have a lot of stuff going on in their life.
Yeah.
And, it's not really a mystery.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of hours in the day.
Yeah.
So if you're working a job and you do overtime, and you have a family and go to church and you take your kids to sports games, and it's like,
where's the time?
I hear you. That's just where now you have to start making that choice of could you do it in baby steps? Could you not work overtime, just work 40 hours, and then the overtime is your eBay time?
Right. Is it worth it monetarily?
And then maybe I heard other people, they've gone from being full-time and then they just go part-time.
Right.
So they still have income coming in, but they have more hours to spend on eBay.
Right.
And that's what we always say is that, if you're really expecting eBay to become, income for you, you need to put as much time into it as a regular job.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Only way.
Yep. And if it is just a hobby and you're not having time for it, some other hobby that you have or something else needs to go, or something.
Get rid of your kids, sell them on the internet,
Yeah. Exactly.
No, but if you have, especially if you have a partner, that's also something to start doing, is figuring out if they could be a part of this. Either they partner with you, or one of you quits at your job and the other one goes full time.
Yeah.
All these things. There's no, I think that's why I really kind of cringe when I hear about people trying to sell a system, buy my Amazon system, buy my eBay selling system, because really there's no one way that works for everyone.
Right.
We all come we all have different circumstances in life. We have certain different needs, all those things, capabilities. And so you just have to figure out what's going to work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And start to make those sacrifices or those changes.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, it's Chicago Tony V. Hey, in a recent podcast, there was a caller that asked lots of questions about artwork, selling artwork, and specifically asking how do you find boxes for shipping artwork. I just wanted to share that I have noticed in my town that I can find some great boxes for even large artwork behind some of my local bicycle shops. It turns out that I think the way new bicycles are shipped to these folks looks an awful lot like artwork type boxes. They're very wide, very tall, but not very deep. So that's where I've been getting mine, and I haven't had to pay for a single large artwork box yet. So hope this helps. Love the podcast. Talk to you later.
That is a great tip. I did not even think of that. And we have a bicycle shop in town, so maybe I should go ask them for boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the artwork we sell often doesn't have a frame, so we actually just put it in between
cardboard, thick, double-walled cardboard. But if it does have a frame with glass, you really got to get a box that's going to fit it and, be able to pad it out.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea. Thank you, Tony B, Chicago Tony B.
So we had another question or, kind of comment coming through email. I don't often say people's names because I don't know if they want me to say their names, so I'm not going to. And I say that I can. But he says he works at a FedEx. He's
yes.
an IT guy. And so he said him and his buddies started to sell on eBay as a joke. I guess.
As a joke, yeah.
I guess they were kind of bored at work and they were just like, I wonder if I can sell this stapler. And they would make
and they could.
a funny post about it. And they said they started selling it. So him and his buddy started to sell together and they would go to thrift stores and yard sales and buy stuff. And now they're kind of doing both.
Yeah.
He says he loves his job. Sounds like a good job.
Yeah.
With good benefits.
Yeah.
But, he says him and his buddy, they seem kind of high rollers, They're kind of going and buying a bunch of stuff. And so his question was, have we ever thought about going to a yard sale?
Yeah.
And walking up and being like, I'll just take it all for $200. I'll give you $200 and then you don't have to sit here all day. I'll get it all out of and so that way you don't have to touch anything and it'll be done. I mean, we've never thought about that.
Well, we've never thought about it because at most yard sales, most of it is junk. Yeah. I don't want any of that stuff.
95% of it's junk.
I want to go and I want to pick and choose, and it's still so cheap.
Right.
And
I mean, I get the tenor of his question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying words I don't know if
is that the right word?
He's got a good question because it's this stuff is so cheap, why not just buy it in bulk? But that's the thing. We've thought, and actually I've done some research on if we started to clean out houses. Because that's kind of it's next step.
Yeah.
Clean out estates. If you can get a reputation or get your name out there, you'll start getting calls from families whose parents have died.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm trying to sell the house. It's full of a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
Can you come and clean it out? It's for me.
Right.
Sometimes they'll even pay you to clean out the stuff and you get to keep it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to bid on the contents of the house
too.
But that's the thing. We know people that do that, and really it's a whole thing because, I mean, more than half the house could really just be trash.
Right.
And then you have to hire often people to come help you.
You need a box
truck.
truck.
A big truck. It's just, we like to be more of the scavengers that go in. We'll let other people do that.
Yeah.
We'll let you do the house clean out, and then you'll sell it yourself, and then I'll come in and I'll just get the stuff I want.
I'll get the stuff I want. Yeah. That's more of how we like to do it. Because like Jay said, we have more than we can handle, and we already just cherry pick stuff.
Right. We've always said this: the finding of the stuff isn't the hard thing. That's the easy part. It's just like what Dwayne just asked about having time to a list. I mean, that's really where it is. Like, that's the struggle we all have is like, when are we going to list?
Yep, exactly.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Rachel. I am a faithful listener to your podcast. I listen when I work one night a week, and it's great. I learn so much. I have a couple questions if I have time. First one, I recently mailed a glass bowl to a buyer, and the buyer received it, and it was broken when she received it. She immediately opened an item not as described case, and I contacted her. She was very kind. She said it was packed well, and she didn't realize that it wasn't necessary to open a case. She could have just asked for a refund. Anyway, I gave her an immediate refund, and she said, I will give you good feedback. And anyway, I received a defect because it was an item not as described. So I contacted eBay, and the first two reps I talked to told me that they couldn't do anything about the defect because the item indeed was not as described. I told them that the buyer had verified that I had packed it very well, and I gave her an immediate refund. I actually got the post office to compensate me for the loss. And I spoke to another rep. I tried your method of continually calling reps. I spoke to another one. This one said, yes, definitely, we can remove that defect because it's not your fault once it's in the shipping process if it's packed well. I checked on it like a week or two later, still wasn't removed. I called another rep, and they said, well, that rep did not know what they were talking about. There's nothing we can do about it. So I just wanted to find out if you had any experience with that and if you think that is something that could be removed. Side note, most of my feedback says something like packed very well, item arrived safely, and I've not had anything break up to this point. My husband works for a printer, and he got a hold of some great bubble wrap. They had some bubble wrap they were going to throw away that it was like a pocket with a little sealable flap, and the seal wasn't holding, so they were going to throw this away. So we have mounds and mounds of bubble wrap, and I'm able to pack things with lots of bubble wrap. So he's been a great source for paper and bubble wrap and boxes. It's great. A second question. I recently sold a tablecloth, and upon mailing it, I found there were some stains on it that I hadn't seen when I listed it. And I tried to contact the buyer and ask if they want the tablecloth still, offering a discount. And they haven't responded, and I'm not sure if I should go ahead and mail it. And then they receive it and say, item not as described, and I get a defect, or they say, I don't want it, and then I'm out the shipping. Or should I wait and then...
Okay, so that person got cut off because she went over the 3-minute limit. Yeah, it's like the Gong Show, right?
But these are good
questions. So the first one, yeah, that's interesting that you literally called 4 or 5 times. I'm surprised because I actually need to do this on Monday. I have some defects that I was told would be removed, and they are still there, like global shipping defects. I'm like, clearly this isn't supposed to be there. I even called to get it taken away, and it's still there a week later. So I'm going to call again.
But the answer is just like, that's just how it is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we hope that, someone from eBay might be hearing this because it's about eBay, so maybe they can hear how us sellers are dealing with these things, and maybe they can improve it. But like I've always said, eBay is just like one of these huge, gigantic corporations with thousands of employees, and just like any change is like trying to, change a huge, gigantic ship. Like you just can't move direction. So until they figure it out, I mean, that's just how it is. You got to call sometimes. Yep. But most times, you can do it in one phone call, right?
Most times you can do it in one, and then if not, the second or third at the max. But 4 or 5 times, that is a pain.
I mean, there are some times where, we have a couple of negative feedbacks from the past 12 months, and
I just can't get rid of them.
I mean, sometimes you're just like, this is taking too much time. We'll just suck it up. Like, you know, a defect, a negative, a neutral. I mean, none of these things are going to kill you.
Yeah.
As long as you have plenty of positives.
Right.
So you really just have to balance, like, you know, how important is it to be a super overachiever versus just, you know.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Exactly. So, of course, my advice is you should call again. But again, you have to decide how much time you want to spend and how much frustration. The second thing, you found a stain on some things that you hadn't shown in your photos. You contacted the buyer and they have not said anything.
This has happened to us. Like, we'll sell a sweater, we get the sweater out. Oh no, there's like a hole in the thing that we didn't see. And you email them and they don't say anything. Like,
what do you do? I think I just send it to them.
I think we give them like 3 days, and if they don't contact us, we just assume it's okay and we just send it. You know?
Yeah, and that sucks because they could be like, item not as described, it has a hole in it, and you're like, I messaged you like 4 times, you know, so how do you deal with that? I don't know.
I mean, the other thing you could do, I think we just took the chance and sent it, and obviously we never got burned by it because we never had it sent back to us. But, you know, often the person will write back, and we'll often say, we'll send this to you and we'll give you 15% off.
A discount.
And they'll be like, sure. But if they don't, it's message you. What you could also do is ask for their contact info.
And call them.
And you can get their phone number.
You can call them.
And you can call them.
Yeah, and that might be a good thing just to be like, just let me know, you know, or I can give you a discount. That always helps because people are like, yeah, cool, fine, no problem. Or be like, I can cancel it. You know, then I can better describe it for the next person, you know. So those are the options for that.
All right, well, that is it for the calls this week. Please check out the blog at scavengerlife.com for links that we talk about, and you can also join the conversation there too. So for those of you who are listening to this on YouTube, that's really where the action is.
Come to the blog.
There's always like the fun after the podcast.
Yes, exactly.
The crazy fun afterwards.
Yes.
So you can call and you can leave a question or a comment for something that you've heard.
540-407-8486 and leave a comment or a question.
We post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on our schedule.
Yes.
Wednesdays, normally we have a What Sells
on eBay video.
And sometimes we'll have an interview, too. We have one in the pipeline that we need to edit up.
Yes.
This next week, because we'll be traveling, you know, who knows, our scheduling might be a little bit off. But we'll do our best to stay in contact.
Yes.
And we'll also link to our vacation farmhouse. So if you ever have some place you want to go that's real special, you can come and stay with us.
Yep. And we'll have dinner with you. If you cook. That's what Chase says. If you cook.
But you know what? You can also come and we don't have to do anything. It's with you. Just don't tell us you're a scavenger and we'll just treat you like a normal person.
It's just a regular. We might not even know. Someone could have even stayed with us and we didn't even know. And they were secretly checking us out.
That's true.
That'd be weird. Yeah.
You think?
I don't know. Okay, this podcast is ending in 3, 2, 1.
Bye.